Notre Dame signed one of the best recruiting classes in the country in 2026, and now some of those freshmen could make a major impact this fall. Coming up, we're breaking down the emerging stars already on the roster and what's next for Notre Dame recruiting.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome in to this crossover edition of Locked On Irish and the Portal. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak, and today is Thursday, August 20th. Thanks as always for getting your day started with us by making this your first watch or listen of the day. And this episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. Joining me today is Brian Smith, the host of The Portal and one of the best guys out there when it comes to evaluating recruiting. And together, we're going to do a deep dive into the true freshmen who are making noise at Notre Dame training camp and who could make a big impact for the Irish this season. Then we're going to evaluate where the Irish stand with their loaded 2027 recruiting class before looking ahead to what's shaping up to be a fascinating 2028 cycle. Here he is. All right, Brian Smith is here, and let's dive into this freshman class for Notre Dame. There's obviously been a lot of buzz around freshman running back Jonaz Walton. Running backs coach Ja'Juan Seider has been raving about him. He's been doing that since the spring, and now Jonaz Walton has a real chance to crack the top of the rotation this season. So did you see this coming based off what you saw from Walton as a recruit? And as impressive as he's been, do you think it's realistic for him to beat out guys like Nolan James Jr. and Kedron Young for touches this early on in his career?
Number one, I saw him a couple of times, and he's a beast because he's so strong and he's so fast and everything. But considering who they had coming back, no, I did not see this coming at all. I thought both freshmen would play only in the games that were blowouts. That's all I thought. But when your really good running back coach says that he will play beyond college before he's ever played a college game, that places things in a different perspective. And on top of it, this is the more important part. It was like it was, what did you guys expect? Like he said it matter-of-factly when he talked about that, Ja'Juan Seider. And I'm like, okay, well now then, I saw him in high school and saw him at practice, saw him in games, all that stuff. No idea, because most guys can't block and they don't learn the playbook fast enough. And if CJ gets hit, season's over. That's why freshman running backs don't play a lot, is the passing game part. Can he pass some of these guys? Maybe, but I need to see it actually in a game before I get really excited, especially like the first time they play somebody that's decent. It's the first game. It's Wisconsin, but I think Notre Dame with the whole season, off season, that game will be over by the middle of third quarter. He might play some. I think they'll play some of the younger guys later. But let's see if like games 2, 3, 4, is he the second running back or the third running back? That's when I'll know. I'm quite sure that the older guys will play first game, but that may not be the case by the end. And as much as Ja'Juan's talked about him, would you be surprised? I would.
He's kind of put himself into a corner where he has to play him, at least in some capacity. You can't come out and have that strong of a statement, to your point, before he even plays a game and then bench him the whole year, because then you set unrealistic expectations for him. You risk losing trust with the key player. So you don't want to do that. And I feel like if Dylan McCullough had said it, I would have believed him, but I don't think it would have had quite the same level of significance, because Dylan McCullough wanted to play 4, sometimes even 5 running backs. So if Dylan McCullough is like, he's going to play, then I'll just take that as, he must have some role. He's going to get some carries here and there. The conversation around Seider is that he really only wants to play 2 running backs, or at least that's what he's done the past several years, dating back to his time at Penn State. So everyone kind of looks at the running back position now as either if you're in the top 2, you're going to play, and if you're not, you're only going to come in during garbage time. So the fact that he was this emphatic about Jonaz Walton this early leads me to believe that at worst, he's going to be RB3, and maybe this year he'll expand it out a little bit more. But I still just find it hard to believe that as a true freshman, he's going to flat out beat Kedron Young and Nolan James Jr., 2 guys that we know the staff is high on this early on in his career.
Hey, if he does it, I wouldn't be surprised if it's for the right reasons, because I've never seen anybody say anything or any drills that I've watched that make me think Seider isn't just very linear. He has a path. That's the one that he uses. And if you make the grade, you play. That's it. Like it's pretty much militaristic. And I'm okay with that. this is what we're going to do. If you can do it, fine. If not, you can stand over here with me. So I'm cool with whatever he goes with.
I agree. When you have that many talented options in the room, it's hard to go wrong. Now, shifting over to tight end, Ian Premer generated as much hype as just about any freshman in this class over the summer, even though he wasn't even around for spring practice. And we got like a very brief glimpse as to why from Notre Dame's social media account. They showed him making some plays in practice. So when you evaluated him as a recruit, what separated him from other tight ends nationally, and how quickly do you think that translates to Saturdays?
This will probably surprise some people, but it's watching him laterally. He was a hooper, which also helped. He'd like to dunk on people. And I know he was in the middle of Kansas. I get it.
Yeah.
But the way he exploded off the floor told me a lot. I'm from Indiana, like East Central Indiana, where basketball was just religion. He could have played in any era and been a competitive player. And I think he's, quite frankly, a Division I basketball player. Do I think he could have at least competed in the Big Ten or something? Yeah. If you have that kind of guy that has a physical mindset and soft hands, there's really no level of what he can do on the offensive side of the ball. Now, it's the obvious question because like Teddy, who's his roommate, he enrolled in the summer. How much of the playbook does Ian have? That is the only question that matters, and we have zero answers. And we're going to get zero answers because they don't want to give away what they're going to do. That's fine. But while I know coaches loathe, and I do mean loathe, playing guys that don't know the full playbook, there is no way on God's green earth he's going to sit because they don't have a natural playmaker at tight end right now in the passing game. They just don't have it. This is the least talented from a pass catching standpoint. Notre Dame's been at tight end, and I don't even know when. It's been a very long time because they haven't been talking about anybody else. And do you think it's by accident that the Notre Dame media team utilized him? That because they get access to 100% of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Coincidence there, Tyler? I highly doubt it.
I agree. When you look at that tight end room and its makeup, you've got Ian Premer, who could catch passes, Jack Larson, who, funny enough, we're talking about the Notre Dame social media team. They put out a video of him making a really spectacular catch in practice on Wednesday. Like, those are the two best pass catchers, but Larson's issue has been he's undersized and he's not a really good blocker. Then you have Cooper Flanagan, who's a great blocker. When he's out there, he's healthy. Ty Washington was pretty good as a blocker last year. And James Flanagan is a guy who all he did in high school was block. I think he only had like 11 catches. So they're not as well balanced. So I agree. Ian Premer is going to play. What his role is to be determined. But I think as the season goes along and he understands the playbook a lot more, we're going to see him out there and he's going to be making plays. Now, a couple other pass catchers I want to ask you about. At wide receiver, Notre Dame is Bubba Frazier and Devin Fitzgerald. And they're in a room where it's going to be pretty difficult for a freshman to earn significant snaps, let alone two. But so far, they've both really impressed, and they are absolutely in the mix to get on the field this season. What could each of these guys bring to the Notre Dame offense in 2026?
Speed, elusiveness, the ability to make plays in space. Like, I know it sounds generic, but if you think about Notre Dame over the last 10, 15 years, they've had some really good teams. But how many teams did you say had a plethora of guys that could do that? The 2015 team.
Yeah, I'd put 2015, 2018, they were pretty top-heavy with Boykin, Claypool, Fink, but not 7 deep, 8 deep at wide receiver like they are now.
Exactly. So the biggest thing here is they're pushing the pile. You know what I mean? Like, they have enough speed. Like, I was looking at some of the film and that video that went out, like Bubba Frazier, the one that he caught the touchdown from CJ. And I've seen him play live, but the game I saw him, he was a little beat up. So I wasn't sure how fast he was live, but I'd heard he was really good. I just happened to be at a game that he was banged up. Braden Robinson, I've seen play live, just as an example. When he was in 8th grade, I was at a big tournament. He was fastest guy there going into 9th grade. This is in Dallas. So that kind of put things in perspective. Any of these guys could be a punt returner or a specialty player, but if this was 2019, like Caden Finley or any number of these guys would be competing for a starting job, like the receiver group. And like Layton Wissington, like the running back that they have coming in the next class, or anybody like him would be starting. Same thing with the guys they have committed now. Like, they would have a chance to start right away. It just shows you the depth that Notre Dame has. So to me, it's just push the pile. If there's an injury, somebody can step in. And while they may not know the full playbook again, the athlete is the same. It's just younger. Their third and fourth team, guys that are like scout team and stuff, the first team is going to get a really good look all year long.
They are. They were all, and you know who else is going to get a good look? The special teams unit. I remember I went to an Alabama game when I was in college. Alabama was playing Kentucky, so this would have been 2017. Alabama went on to win the national championship that season, so we're still talking like peak Nick Saban era. And I was watching the game with one of my buddies who went to Alabama, and I remember before the opening kickoff, and he just said, "Watch these guys hit. These are all the 5 stars, the very high 4 stars who haven't been able to earn snaps on offensive defense yet. So this is their one time to shine." And oh my God, Brian, they decapitated the Kentucky return team. And I think it was a touchback. But I just remember thinking like, oh my God, like every single one of these guys is on a mission to prove that they should be on the field more. And they came in with all this hype because Nick Saban was just reeling in 5-star classes. And when they went out there, they delivered. It's been a while since Notre Dame has been able to do that. But I think now with all the depth and the young guys and the talent that they're bringing in, we're going to start to see that all across the board, but specifically on special teams as well. And one of the guys that could be doing that is Joey O'Brien. He's one of the crown jewels of the 2026 class as a 5-star safety. And even if Notre Dame doesn't need him to play a huge role immediately, they don't, because they have Briante Johnson, Adon Schuler, and Luke Talich in front of him. It looks like Joey O'Brien is going to have a role on defense this season and definitely on special teams as well. What did you see about him as a prospect that makes you believe he could be a difference maker from day one?
Well, the length was obvious. He was 6'4.5" last summer, from what he told me at the Rivals 5-star camp. But when I saw him in man coverage, I kind of wondered. He lined up a few times against elite players and played bump coverage. Now, I don't think he's linear as fast like on a laser or some other guys, but I hate using the term, but he's got football speed and he's very patient with his hands. He doesn't get in a bad spot and create turnovers. So he's a savvy guy. Because, you know, you can go get a pick if you push off or whatever, but it's coming back. He's very patient, goes for the ball when he needs to, and he will come across the field. He's faster in games than he is like in tracks. It's weird. And he just comes across the field and makes plays that nobody sees coming. He had a pick in the Under Armour All-American game. I think he picked off Teddy, as a matter of fact. So, like, he's just very savvy with wherever the ball's at. He finds himself over there. I don't think there are many guys that have a higher IQ than him on a football field, and he's very patient for a young guy with that length. Again, he's 6'4.5". He's like the prototypical free safety that just hasn't grown into his body yet. And if you walked up to him and you didn't know what position you'd play, you might say wing forward in basketball because that's like how he's built. He's just such a long kid. He'll fill out, but I think he'll play right away just based on his ability to create turnovers. He'll get a pick or two this year in probably no more than about 150 snaps.
I mean, when you have that kind of length and you can cover that kind of ground on the field, you're going to put yourself in position to make plays. Last question on this freshman class. I want to get your thoughts on the quarterbacks, Teddy Gerard and Noah Grubbs. Right now, it looks like one of those guys is going to be the backup to C.J. Carr against Wisconsin, and they are going to continue to battle throughout the season. When you look at the 2026 season, not the long-term future, we're just focused on this year, who do you think is best equipped to come in and run the offense as a true freshman if they're called upon?
It's not close. It's Noah because he was in spring. Quarterback is the only position where this truly applies. It's all about the playbook. That's why it's so hard. It usually takes at least 2 years to kind of go through a traditional playbook, but of course, college football is way different now. You can just run RPO, like Indiana led the nation in RPO plays last year. Makes it a lot more simple. It's with the quarterback in a basic circumstance. And they could do that some with him, but Notre Dame, they have more post-snap reads and stuff. So I'd be curious how much Noah has picked up. He's a very bright young man, but he had spring to go through it. Teddy's great at processing, one of the best I've been around. He played with our 7-on-7 team. I work with Coastline Stars. But, I mean, he didn't get there until the summer. And I know he had – like he showed me one time on his tablet. Literally, we were waiting at an airport. What they gave him just for, like, the form – he had, like, 30-some formations or something. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, they just gave this to me. I said, good luck. And just, he showed up. I'm like, whoa.
Good luck, man. Have a good time.
It was a lot. He says, yeah, we got a meeting coming up. I got to get in on this. I'm like, that doesn't sound much fun. but he still didn't get there till summer to rep it. They're not going to put a team that, like, if CJ sprains his ankle and has to miss a game, they're not going to put a guy in there that doesn't know as much. They're going to put the guy that probably not going to turn it over and can get it to the running back or the screenplay. So I don't think it's close. I think short term, it's Grubbs.
Notre Dame's freshmen are already making their presence felt, but Marcus Freeman is not slowing down on the recruiting trail. So coming up next, we're going to evaluate just how good this 2027 class can be and whether or not it's actually finished. Stick around. Today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Before the season even kicks off, everyone is making predictions. Who's winning the division? Who's making the playoffs? Who's hoisting the Lombardi Trophy when it's all said and done? Well, with Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market, you can actually trade on those predictions in a live market. So the Washington Commanders have been a frequent topic of conversation lately, mostly because their quarterback has been in some very odd off-the-field drama. But is that going to impact their playoff hopes? So right now, they're trading at 29% on Kalshi, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $340 if they end up clinching a playoff spot. And that's honestly the great thing about Kalshi. Every fan thinks they know which teams are being overrated, which teams are flying under the radar, and who's about to surprise people. Well, now you can put those predictions to the test. On Kalshi, you are trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 and older only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Okay, Notre Dame has been sitting at 23 commitments in the class of 2027 since Braden Parks committed back on July 23rd, and they are currently ranked 4th in the team composite rankings. They're still pursuing 5-star linebacker Kaden Henderson. They could potentially add another defensive back. But do you think this class is essentially finished in the same way that they were last year when then the 2026 class wrapped up before the season actually started? Or do you think we're going to see Notre Dame make some late moves during the season?
Inevitably, they're going to get another linebacker. I think that's a fairly safe assumption, unless they set a bar that they can't reach. Like I don't know who all it is, but I'm sure they're trying to flip guys. That's part of the nature of the beast. But they're also looking at guys that are probably on that cusp of offering, and they'll evaluate. So that one linebacker, and there's probably a DB somewhere. Like I'm really, just as an example, like John Gay is a guy that I'm really, really high on. I don't know what position he's going to play, but Notre Dame could probably use another DB that could play safety or nickel like him because versatility is king. I could see that. But again, they could just go portal again. I mean, DJ McKinney, if you can find somebody like him, that may be your answer. So it just depends. But I would say at least one guy would be the benchmark, possibly two. But they have such a good group already, Tyler. I mean, 19 of their 23 players are ranked in the top 300 on Rivals. And one of the 23 is a long snapper. No offense to him, but they're never going to rank him in the top. So really, it's 19 out of 22. That's insane.
I'm with you. I think they're probably going to add one more, but if they don't, I don't think there's any reason to panic, and it's because Notre Dame is more willing to add undergraduate transfers. Like, if you don't end up adding a defensive back in the cycle, but then you go out in the transfer portal and then you add next year's version of Jane Sanders, you're going to be fine. So I think Notre Dame is going to be very specific about the type of player they want. Kaden Henderson certainly makes sense as a 5-star linebacker. We know how badly Notre Dame wanted him before he ended up picking Texas A&M. I understand that the Irish are trying to get him back on campus this fall. I think they would prefer for him to come on campus for the Miami game, and we have some questions about that later on. But now that high school football is underway across the country, who are 2 or 3 Notre Dame commits you think have the best chance to make a significant move up the rankings?
I think it's all 3 of the reclass players. Seguin Alexander, Champ Mons, Jackson Vaughn. All 3 of them, because of their class that they were originally in, weren't scouted the same. And B, let's be honest, they played less, so there's just less film of them. Champ was the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the 28 class, and then he missed the majority. For those who don't know, he missed the majority of last season. I get it. I mean, he's super, super talented. I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're evaluating him and your rivals are 24/7, it's kind of hard to rank him above kids that played a bunch more. So I'm good with that. Vaughn is the one that's really, really interesting. I got a call, ironically, about Champ Mons yesterday, but the guy that I was speaking with, he covers Florida, and he loves Champ. He knows him and his school, and he said he played great the other night. He's like, he's going to be a star. You're going to love him at Notre Dame, blah, blah, blah. But then he says, have you seen the Jackson Vaughn kid yet? And I just left IMG a week or so ago, and I'd met him, and I've seen his film. And I said, yeah. And he goes, he bends better than any player in Florida. That, as a general rule, is a very good sign. So in case you don't know, the state of Florida produces a lot of pass rushers. Vaughn is a 5-star talent. He's about 6'3", and he's very, very athletic. He was standing next to Zyron Forstall, the kid that Notre Dame almost got that went to A&M. And out of the two, there's no doubt which one you would pick on the hoof.
Yeah.
He looks the part and all that. And Forstall's a more polished player. He's a year older. He's a great kid. But Vaughn just looks the part, man. Like he looks like a future NFL player. He's going to play at 6'3", 255. He's kind of a Justin Tuck clone, like at this stage, like what he looks like. And I think he's going to be a stud. Sagan Alexander is not part of planet Earth the way he looks.
I don't know if anyone's higher on Sagan Alexander than you are, and I'm here for all of it. One quick thing on Jackson Vaughn, just to clear up any confusion. Jackson Vaughn used to go to Bergen Catholic, but prior to the season, he ended up transferring over to IMG Academy in order to reclassify. I don't think it ended up working out for him at Bergen. So I just wanted to mention that in case some people got confused, because we've only talked about Jackson Vaughn as one of the New Jersey kids. But the fact that he is making his presence felt in the state of Florida at a place like IMG Academy, who has seen all kinds of talented players come through, is really impressive. Now, forget the rankings for a second. Let's put it aside. And this doesn't even have to be about the guys you think are the best or will be the best down the road, but purely from an entertainment standpoint, Brian, who are your favorite Notre Dame commits to turn on the tape and watch in this class? And just to provide some context here, we talked about Ian Premer already. I had such a blast watching him torment Kansas high school football players last year. It was not fair, and it looked like traditional high school football where you have one freakish guy who stands above all the other kids on the field, and you're like, pick the D1 prospect. Now with the way that high school football is, and these guys are playing on a lot more competitive teams, they're surrounded by that talent. Sometimes guys aren't able to stand out quite like that, but in your perspective, when you look at the guys and you watch their film, who are the most fun players to watch?
Well, I mean, some of the guys that you would expect kind of fit. Abraham Cisse looks the part as much as anybody in the country. So is Fuller Run Show. I know Julius Jones, and I've seen him live enough. I don't even have to watch his film anymore. I like him. But the guy that I probably think of the most is Lathan Wissington, because his contact balance, this is something I'm big on with running backs between the tackles, reminds me of a much older player, knowing how to hit, how to be stepping, your distance between your feet when you make contact with a legitimate player at linebacker. It's like he's just got a different trust with himself. Not only is he physical, but after contact, he gets back up to speed in an insane way, ironically, kind of like the father of one of the guys I just mentioned, Julius Jones Jr. Like he used to get hit, and 2 seconds later, he was 15 yards down the field. It was, he just bounced off of guys. Wissington's got some nastiness to him there. And then the one that people may not expect me to say, I kind of mentioned him earlier, is John Gay. He plays at Chaminade, which, like, I know what Broward County is. It is the home of the wide receiver DB wars. It's the best county in the country for players outside the numbers. It is insane. And that kid is super underrated, and Notre Dame got a steal. Like, they should never be able to get kids out of Chaminade. I don't know how that happened, but they did.
Same high school as Jeremiah Smith, for those unfamiliar.
Yeah, amongst Pons that played in Indiana, like they've had tons of players.
Right. Okay, when you step back and look at this class in totality, you could take this any direction you want, whether it be positionally, big picture. You could get into individuals. What do you consider the biggest strength of Notre Dame's 2027 class?
This is a forest for the trees answer. Anybody that studies college football recruiting like I do and knows the class like I do, if they don't say defensive line, take them out back and shoot them. They're no good for you. They're old yeller. Just put them out of their misery. It's the defensive line. Just shoot them. It's over with. It's over with, man. Your career is done. This is the best Notre Dame defensive line haul in my lifetime. And I turned 53 in less than 2 weeks. They're going to have at least 3 guys out of this class playing the NFL. It's not close. It's a defensive line.
You will hear no argument from me after that. Okay, let's flip that around. What is the biggest weakness, or maybe just the biggest unanswered question with this class?
It's linebacker. They only have one. And the way that they've it's weird because the way they produce linebackers in their senior, it's insane what they have this year. Yeah. But I'll just go ahead and say it. There's a certain linebacker / defensive coordinator now in East Lansing that quit recruiting at Notre Dame because he knew he was leaving. And that's why they're in the position they're in. And I mean, that's on Freeman. He didn't see it or something, but if you go look at their spring visits, they had hardly anybody, they didn't have guys coming in. They should have known something. They messed up there. But it's linebacker. I'll just say it. In today's game, it's the least important position because you're going to get exposed no matter even Henderson. If I've got even an average running back on 3rd and 6, let him try to cover a running back. It's impossible to play linebacker in today's game. They can get one more and they'll be fine, but they only have one guy at that spot. So it's an easy answer.
The 2026 class was elite. The 27 class is loaded, and now the challenge is doing it all over again. So still to come, Notre Dame's search for a quarterback in 2028, the early names to know, and a potentially massive recruiting weekend in South Bend. That's next. Now, as we look ahead to the class of 2028, Notre Dame thought they had their quarterback in the cycle when Trey Tagliaferri committed, also from Bergen Catholic, only for him to flip to Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners just 6 days later. And it's been pretty quiet since then on the quarterback recruiting front. So from your perspective, where does Notre Dame go from here at quarterback? Who are some names that you're hearing that they are evaluating or beginning to prioritize?
It just depends on who you talk to. I know that Tom Moy from 24/7 was asked this question the other day, and he went through 10 guys. There's a few California kids, etc. I know one of the kids locally that I'd like them to look at, and I think they have, is Oscar Sloan. I believe he's at Center Grove, which is on the south side of Indianapolis. That's a good program. But the kid that I didn't know about that Tom mentioned was Hunter Fujikawa out of Hawaii. And he's a really good quarterback. Could you imagine the social media thing that it would be for a Hawaiian quarterback to come to Notre Dame? That'd be wild.
Hey,
but he can
Notre
play.
Dame has had a good track record in Hawaii, although it's been mostly a linebacker, not so much a quarterback.
Well, maybe that's the new Manti Te'o. I don't know, but he's allegedly pretty interested, according to Tom. I haven't delved into it much. The only guys I've been looking at are the really top end guys, and there's a handful. But I don't know if any of those guys are going to be in that mix because they thought they had a great shot at a couple of the other players. It just didn't work out. And here's the deal. This is going to happen to every team. I don't care what your recruiting situation is, even with Freeman. They've signed so many good quarterbacks recently. Everybody knows they're not going to play. So I don't like to say it there's no nice way to put this. At least every third year, you need somewhat of a developmental guy. Somebody that, or they're rare, and this is the greatest thing. I'm really, really good, but I only want to go to Notre Dame. Well, that guy doesn't exist in this class. Because most kids, if they're not starting by the end of their sophomore year, it's adios. So I think they should take a developmental kid. And again, the Sloan kid from Indianapolis, he's a pretty good player. But I bet you that it would mean more to him to go to Notre Dame or Indiana, something like that, than it would some other kids because he's from the area. He lives 3 hours from South Bend. I would take somebody like that and then go get the best quarterback you can in the country in 29.
I'm glad you brought that up because there was a time several months ago when Notre Dame looked like the favorite to land Kingston Preer, and depending on who you talk to, there may or may not have been a silent commitment there. And I remember hearing that and thinking, wow, are they really going to go Teddy Gerard, Champ Mons, and Kingston Preer? That would be an insane 3-year run, 3 top 50 guys all at quarterback. When, like you said, there's a lot of competition there, and if guys aren't playing early, and then I thought, well, maybe that was just the confidence level in Preer. And as we've talked about before, didn't work out. There might have been some interesting demands from that side of things. So now Notre Dame has to open up the board a little bit. I am not concerned about quarterback recruiting at all. I think they're going to figure it out. Now, you said that there's a couple other guys top of the board that you're really interested in. So let's move just outside of quarterback. Who are some of your favorite 2028 prospects that Notre Dame has a legitimate chance to land, and what makes those guys so exciting to you?
Well, across the country, there's all kinds of players that are good. Like the Prescott kid that they have. That's probably, I'm trying to think. He might be the best defensive lineman they've signed out of Illinois in the last God knows how many years.
You would take him over Fularuncho and Parks?
It's possible because he's that rare guy that he's playing end right now. It's in the conversation. He's a year behind.
Yeah,
I think he's going to grow into a 3-tech and be a pass rusher as a 3-tech, which is the rarest, which is what Fularuncho is now. But this kid's younger. Like for him to be in that conversation puts that there. And the other kid that's at Brother Rice or whatever it is, I forget his name, the other DN, he's elite. He might be the best player in the country. And I think Rivals has him like one of the top 2 or 3 players in the country or whatever. And it just shows you what it's like for it, not just Illinois, but like Notre Dame's in on all these D linemen. That's the first thing I look at for every single year is that spot, because whether you're Notre Dame or anybody else, if you don't get defensive linemen, it's pretty much over. A couple other kids,
and Cameron McGee is the guy from Rice, by the way. I wanted to bring up his name.
Yeah, he's really good. He's like 6'3", 240 or something. And he's just a dude. They also have, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Castle Cruikshank, the kid from North Carolina, is coming in on a visit for one of the games. He's a 5-star defensive end that's long and athletic. He's 6'5", 215. Like he's almost identical to what Justin Tuck was at this same stage. That's a kid like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They probably don't get that guy that they're in on. And then there's the defensive end, the cornerback out of Arizona. He's like a 6'3" kid that they've got a great shot at. 6'3" corners, man, never go out of style. And that's important. And then whichever receiver they can get that's a top of the board guy, they're in on, believe it or not, 3 or 4 different ones, including, I would say 3 out of the top 5 guys right now are planning to either visit Notre Dame, have already been on campus at Notre Dame. Keaton Fields is at the corner.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to see which ones come, because receiver is kind of like the last hurrah. Lorenzo McMullen is one of them. The running back that played for the Colts after playing at LSU, his son from Houston, and one other kid that like they never get in on those kids early, ever. Yeah. They got a chance at multiple in one class, and it's kind of the final frontier. If you could get 1 or 2 elite receivers, that's the only spot they haven't recruited at an elite level, even D-line now. So that would be the final frontier for Notre Dame.
Okay, last question. Notre Dame appears to be loading up the visitor list for the Miami game this fall. That's not out of the ordinary. Obviously, you always want to stack the biggest game of the season with recruits, and that Notre Dame-Miami game, I've said this before, has the chance to be one of, if not the biggest home game of my lifetime. Between the recruiting potential of that weekend and all the star power that could be on campus and the magnitude of the matchup itself, where do you think that game could stack up among the biggest Notre Dame home games of your lifetime?
USC 2005 would probably be really high up there. I would imagine Clemson 2020 would be up there. Those come to mind off the top. Trying to think if there was another one that would be better.
Yeah. We're not going to count Indiana. That's a playoff game. That's different.
Yeah, that you can't. I don't think you can have recruits at games anyway. But those would be the ones off the top of my head. Those are pretty important. Beyond that, man, I don't know. That
Ohio State 2023 was pretty big.
Oh yeah. That would be that has to be.
But I think this Miami game would be above that if both teams are as good as I think they are this year.
It could be. Why not? Because everybody knows that game could be for a chance of the number 1 seed in the playoff. I think their visitor list will be incredible. By the way, as a whole, that day might be the best viewing day. I'll be at the game, but might be the best viewing day for college football TV in my lifetime.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Miami, and there's like 2 other top 10 kind of games. And it's just like, it's so
Georgia
random.
Ole Miss, I think, is that day.
Yep. And there's one other one too. And I'm just like, course, it's the day that I decided to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, we're going to have to find a tailgate with multiple televisions, clearly.
Wow. That's one thing I'm not worried about at a Notre Dame tailgate. That's
No doubt.
There'll be plenty of those.
All right, Brian, always appreciate the time, and make sure you check out Brian's work and follow everything he's doing over at The Portal all year long on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Brian, enjoy the rest of your summer. Try to stay cool down there in Gulf Shores, and we'll talk again soon, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, that'll do it for today's crossover episode. Thanks again for making the show your first watch or listen of the day. Before we head out, please subscribe to Locked On Irish or The Portal on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts. And if you enjoyed the show today, give this video a like if you're watching along on YouTube, or rate the show 5 stars and leave a review on your favorite podcast app. And for the Locked On Irish viewers and listeners out there, we have got the Friday mailbag coming your way tomorrow. So get your questions in now. You can drop them in the YouTube comments or send them to me on social media. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Irish and on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Irish Pod. Thanks again for hanging out with us today. We'll be back tomorrow to answer your questions on the Friday mailbag.